Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. So let's get right into it. First, we have government shutdown averted as Senate passes $459 billion funding bill from WashingtonPost.com by Zatsness. And I said, I would have preferred the shutdown to the fiscally irresponsible omnibus bill, but sadly that's not the world we live in. I don't think it really matters too much, though. The government's just going to piss away money regardless. So, I guess, it doesn't really matter that much. But I personally would have preferred the shutdown. Personally, I would like the permanent government shutdown rather than I think it's kind of false advertising when they say government shutdown, because they're not really shutting down the government. They're just putting a barricade in front of a national park, and that's pretty much it. You can just walk over the barricade, so it doesn't really matter too much, I would say. Then we have the incident that made Riley Gaines an advocate for women's sports from JRE Clips, and I posted that, and I said, interesting video. I know a fair amount of vote blue no matter who people like my parents who aren't that into trans women and women's sports. I definitely think a more moderate Republican like Glenn Youngkin could capitalize on that, but sadly the GOP base seems dead set dying on the Trump hill. Then we have proposed Louisiana bill would eliminate parole opportunity for most convicted in the future from APnews.com by Frosty Slawman. And I don't think that's good. Ultimately, I think the idea of parole is ultimately up to discretion of the state. Well, I think it should be, what do the people think? If the people want to parole someone, I think it should be their prerogative and not that of the state. That's why I'm very against, I would say, the idea of the prison system in general. I think we should just if people want to hold people accountable and throw them in jail, I think they should be able to, but I don't like how the state controls the prisons. That's something that I am personally very against. Then we have a surge of illegal homemade machine guns has helped fuel gun violence in the U.S. from AP News by Andy Say. And I said, there is no such thing as an illegal gun. The state can't determine which weapons are and aren't legal. That's just how ultimately, if people want to say something, oh, this is illegal, and want to enforce the reason others, I think they should be able to do so. But with that being said, I think, I don't trust a forced collective state like the one we have currently to force its values on others without exceeding its authority, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Mike Johnson's campaign contributions from company tied to Russia from Newsweek.com by Baton 13, and they added, puts his resistance to Ukraine assistance in a bit of a different light. And I said, Johnson has been pretty supportive for Ukraine assistance from what I have seen, but I guess it's not enough, so they have to take out the old Russia boogeyman again. Also, this is from October 2023. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Sam Altman back on OpenAI's board after he's cleared by investigation from Wired.com by Zatsness. And, I definitely, ultimately, if he has the ability to be on the board, I think he should be able to. I personally don't think we should be regulating AI at all. That's my thoughts on that issue, because I think, we need to preserve artistic and creative freedom, and I think that's that's what people are using AI for, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have The Tide is Turning. Dozens of anti-LGBTQ bills die in Florida from AaronInTheMorning.com by International Silver One, a cross post from the Uplifting News subreddit. And, I definitely think that's good. Ultimately, I think LGBTQ people should have the same rights as the rest of the people, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have U.S. military ship heading to Gaza to build port from BBC.com by Zatsness. And I definitely don't think that's good, ultimately, or I don't think that's good, actually, I don't think the U.S. military should be out policing the world, and that seems to be what they're doing here, and that's my thoughts on that issue. I think I personally sympathize more with Gaza and the Palestinians than Israel, but that being said, I think it's not the U.S.'s job to be involved in the conflict at all. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have from 2004, this just into 104 Iraqathon from Bob Kiwi on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, just discovered this show today. It aired in 2004 on Spike TV, which was finally mercy killed and rebranded as Paramount Network in 2018. Frankly, it's a textbook example of why not to do political comedy or political commentary. No one's going to know any of the big names they are in 20 years, and the issues are going to be completely different. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Elon Musk is having community notes removed from his tweets from Donald Key, and that's across from the White People Twitter subreddit. And ultimately, that's not, I personally think that's corporate authoritarianism, but ultimately, Elon is in the position of power, so ultimately the people need to hold him accountable, right? But ultimately, that's the problem with positions of power. You have to hold the positions of power accountable even when you're in charge of the company. But sadly, sometimes that's not always possible. So hopefully the people will hold him accountable for this, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the feds are coming for quote-unquote extremist gamers from theintercept.com. And I posted that, and I said, gamers rise up, bottom text. This just goes how to show you the feds are going to come for any group that they deem extreme. It's increasingly, if you question the official narrative at all, the feds are going to come after you, or at least stalk your online profiles. And that's my thoughts on that issue. They shouldn't be doing that. That's why we need to get rid of all this federal bureaucracy that's just stalking the people's online profiles and putting them on government watch lists. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Germany, 93-year-old Holocaust denier sent back to jail from DW.com, and I posted that, and I said, that definitely goes against free speech. And, everyone should be able to say whatever they want, and there are risk imprisonment for it. As Voltaire said, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend you to the death of your right to say it, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Ultimately, I don't think people should be mean or bigoted, but I don't want to throw them in jail for stuff like misgendering or denying the Holocaust, but it seems like that is the direction the world is headed. And, that's why I think, soon we won't have free speech anymore, and that's just going to be sad when that day comes. Then we have Biden says he regrets using the word illegal during State of the Union from Politico, and I posted that, and I said, I'm sure the people here are the ones calling me out on it. It seems like 90% of this website is leftist blowhards like Keith peeing from my Zolberman. I also added, this is how progressives, they change language over time. It's why you can't say homeless anymore, and then you have to say unhoused. It's just how they change the language. You can't say illegal anymore. Now you have to call them undocumented. It's just changing the rules in real time and moving the goalposts in real time. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have it starting from Tim Pool on Twitter. And that was him quote tweeting, I posted that, was him quote tweeting Libs of TikTok, who tweeted, Pittsburgh police will no longer respond to certain calls including theft, harassment, criminal mischief, and burglary alarms between 3 a.m. and 7 p.m. And from 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. there will be no officers at any stations. Buy guns, buy ammo, the police will not protect you. And I would agree with that, I'm sure they will be right there if someone gets misgendered. That's what my comment on that was, ultimately it seems like they only care about enforcing identity politics stuff rather than enforcing anything else. It's a narco-tyranny that some people can get away with anything as long as they're in the protected class, and if they're in the enemy class, then they're going to enforce all the law on you, every single law on you, if you just step out of line even a little bit. And that's my thoughts on them. That issue, apparently this is this one guy put on Virginia saying, it might not be true, but ultimately it doesn't matter if it's true or not. I would say increasingly the police don't have a duty to protect you at all, and that's why you gotta. You're the only one who will always be protecting yourself, and that's important to remember. You can't trust the state or their apparatus and the police to protect you. Only you can protect yourself. Then we have the U.S. prison population is rapidly graying. Prisons aren't built for what's coming from NPR.org. by Zachness. And yeah, that's my thoughts there are yeah, hopefully the prisons can take care of the older prisoners, but ultimately I think it should be that's why we probably shouldn't have prisons. If we do have prisons, maybe it should be private prisons. Let the private companies run them instead of the state. And ultimately, I don't trust the state or private companies to run prisons, but ultimately some people you're just gonna have to, or violent, you'll have to put them away, and that's just how life is sometimes. So I don't know. I don't really have an idea for what to do with the prison system. Maybe just if people want to maybe think someone's violated the law, maybe they should be lock them up themselves. I don't know. Ultimately, it comes down to what each individual thinks they want to do in regards to criminal justice, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have FDA to finally outlaw soda ingredient prohibited around the world from ScienceAlert.com by Zachness. And yeah, I don't think the FDA or the other alphabet agency should be outlawing anything, but ultimately, I guess ultimately it is their authority to do so. But that's why I think if people don't want to obey the FDA, I don't think they should be forced to do so. I think they're another three-letter agency that we gotta get rid of, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Florida lawmakers vote to raise stripping age to 21. From Reason, and I posted that, and I said, I personally would say that I'm against the state enforcing age limits of any sort. I don't think minors should be stripping. I personally believe that would constitute child pornography, but ultimately people are going to justify what they justify, and I don't like enforcing my views on others. I don't trust the state to do anything without seeing its authority. That's why I think it should be up to the people to stop that rather than the state. And that's my fault on that issue. I don't like enforcing my morality on others, and that's a big part of my libertarianism, And that's why we need the people to enforce the law rather than the state. Then we have the LP can deal a death blow to the two-party system right now from Omni1473N7, and that's the self-post they made. And I said, a third-party candidate has not taken a state in a post-election since 1968. This is extremely wishful thinking. Roughly 40% of the population is going D no matter what, and roughly 40% of the population is going R no matter what. If you didn't learn that from 2016, I don't know what else to tell you. And that's my thought on that issue. Ultimately, I might reluctantly go for RFK Jr. if the Libertarian Party nominates him. With that being said, I definitely won't be happy about it, and I still don't think he'd carry any states or win over 20% of the vote. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trump's praise for Nazi leader Adolf Hitler from Mediaite.com by Clorox. And yeah, this is just kind of another orange man bad thread. It seems like we've been seeing these for the past decade now. I don't think it's good that he's praising Hitler, but it seems like we've been talking about this for a decade now, and it really hasn't just gone away. And yeah, I think Trump's an authoritarian. I don't think he should be going back to the White House. But with that being said, I don't think Joe Biden probably deserves the White House either. So the issue right there is, ultimately I think we should just get rid of all the White House, the presidency, and all of the government, and just let everyone govern themselves, rather than let these knuckleheads govern us. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think, let's see if there's nothing new. So we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.